Hey guys, welcome to the Process HSPA Forum. Welcome everybody. Welcome Alessandra. How you doing?
Fantastic. Happy Wednesday evening, everyone. Thank you for joining the process. I'm
Thank you.
super excited to bring you day 2 of the 2022 HSPA Board Election Forum. Thank you so much for our guests they have with us tonight. All of these guys are nominees for various positions. So tonight we have with us Tamara. I'm going to get it. Beati.
Yes.
Yes.
Got it.
I love her name. Brandon
Yeah.
and Monique. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And
Thanks for
welcome
having
to
us.
you.
Yes,
Are
thank
so
you.
welcome.
Yes, thank you.
So tonight we'll be asking the nominees questions, same questions we have from day 1 panels. Also, just want to remind you, we did a special interview for the kickoff. So definitely head back to our YouTube page and find that if you want to get a download from all of the nominees from this year's board elections.
So guys, we're heading into our intro and we'll be right back. But first, please hit that like and subscribe button on our YouTube channel and also hit that notification bell. Use your pinky finger and you will be notified every time we have new content coming out. So we'll be right back.
All right. So thank you guys for joining us tonight, taking time out of your incredibly busy schedules. All of you have been nominated for positions on the HSPA board. And the process wanted to host this election forum so that we could raise awareness about the board's functions and why people should pay attention and vote for these positions. So before we get into all of that, we wanted to first just introduce you. So I'm just going to go around this circle. And I also want my guests to know that you can't see him right now, but I also have Ken Hare here with us as well. So we'll be rotating him up so you guys get an opportunity to ask questions through him as well. If you're watching and you have comments or questions, feel free to leave them in the chat boxes that the nominees will be able to see them. So I'm going to start with you, Tamara. Can you tell us in 60 seconds about your SPD background?
I sure can. And thanks again for having us. So I began my career back in 1997 as a surgical technologist at a small community hospital. So we rotated through sterile processing quite often. And I found myself completely enamored with the workings of sterile processing. And I kept wondering every time I went down there, how do they get this done? And how do they get this back to me with such quality and free of all the bioburden and ready for us to use in surgery? And I kept finding myself in sterile processing more and more and more. And then finally, a few years ago, I wound up 7 years ago now in sterile processing full time. And it's been my passion ever since. And I will wax poetic about sterile processing all night long if you let me. So I'll stop at my 60 seconds.
Right. And that's how we talked about this off screen, but that's how you know when you found your tribe. They
So
will talk
Definitely,
about
definitely.
SBD, no problem.
I started as a frontline technician, like I said, in 1997, 98, and I'm now a director of sterile processing over 6 sites. So
Wow.
if I can do it, anyone can. It's a long road, but
Yes.
it's
You want
worth
to
it.
add more to your plate?
I do.
Yeah.
Right. Go getters. Speaking of go getters, Brandon, can you talk to us about your background? Tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are and what you're working on currently.
All right. Thank you for having me here today. My healthcare career started over 18 years ago. I started out as a medical office specialist. And one of the things that I worked in the OR, one of the things that we would do each day, we would collaborate with sterile processing and nursing, and we would kind of go over the schedule and rejig it based off of what instrumentation was available. And I swear I have not seen that setup since then, but it was the best thing in the world.
Do it.
Physicians were
That
always
was gold that he just dropped.
physicians were always upset, but we would kind of look to sterile processing and say, do you have this availability? Do we need to slot something else in between this? And then we would send out the final schedule from there. So that's when I really got an understanding of what sterile processing was. I transitioned up to Baltimore. I worked at Mercy Medical Center as a technician. And I really got a deep understanding of what sterile processing really was all about. I became a mentor in the department, and then I became the supervisor. From there, I went to HSPA, where I became the manager of sterile processing and OR materials management. So again, working at a level 1 trauma center, that really kind of rocked my world. But it was just the best thing dealing with such a large staff and so many cases. You know, we're doing 130 cases just about every day. So that's really where I started in sterile processing. And then I also teach at the Community College of Baltimore County. You know, that's where I used to get a lot of students from who would come in and do interns with us in Baltimore. And I thought that would be a great place for me to actually meet new technicians and sort of build sterile processing future. So, and of course, now I'm here at Emory Healthcare in Georgia, where I am the manager of education and training for the healthcare system. One of the biggest things I've done down here so far is really start the Emory Sterile Processing Trainee Program, which we're working on cohort 3. And we're just trying to churn out sterile processing technicians as much as we can. So that's it in a nutshell.
Great. Thank you for that. And thank you for your work in creating those new technicians, because we surely all need them.
Yes, we do.
All
Great
right.
job, brother.
Beati, can you talk to us a little bit about your sterile processing career?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show. I really feel like the newbie here in this group. I've only been in this role for about 4 years. I am a career cardiac nurse.
Oh, wow.
From the heart. That's what I did for 20 years. In multiple roles. Originally, I came over here from Germany. I was a medical laboratory technician in Germany. Came over here, went back to nursing school, and became a cardiac nurse. I have a huge passion for that, and worked, got an ADN, a BSN, then a master's degree, and went into administration. I developed a reputation in my current facility for the fixer. When the department was really on the lowdown and they just couldn't get there. And they had problem with retention, performance, quality, safety, those kind of things. That's when they called me in. I started out in a progressive coronary care unit that went from a 0 point something patient satisfaction score to getting an award after 2 years.
Wow.
I did a small short stay in a nursing home, and then I went to cardiac procedural nursing. And my VP we just got to know each other, and he just put me in a place, fix the department. And so 4 years ago, he had a struggling SPD that needed fixing. And he looked at me and he said, you know, your German heritage will come in perfect here, because I'm very process driven, very standard procedure oriented. And he said, this is the perfect place for you. Go fix it up. So I'm going from cardiac nursing from a cath lab into sterile processing, and it was eye-opening. As a nurse, I had no clue what SPD does, and learned for the first 2 years, just had to learn everything, the trade and the people, and had a lot of turnover, struggled with travelers. And so after that, I went on and became the director of the department. And I like it. I like what I'm doing. It is very rewarding. And I feel like what I'm doing is really being an advocate for a group of people that have been very underappreciated and under-recognized for so long. It's time to come to the forefront, and I feel like that's what I like about it.
That's powerful.
So that's where I was, and that's where I want to go.
Awesome. And remind me, which position were you nominated for this year?
Board of directors.
Board of directors. Awesome.
Yeah, that was a surprise. I first didn't even want to fill it out. And a friend of mine said, well, go give it a shot. And I said, okay. So here I am. I'm new to this, but I think part of that, what attracts me to that is really learning a profession and collaborating with others in this profession to really push this to the next level.
Couldn't agree with you more. And I'm sure that the last guest I have up on the screen right now will feel the same way. Monique, can you tell us about your background and how you came to be in sterile processing?
Absolutely. Let me tell you, you guys are amazing. So it's so diverse. Your story is so diverse and so amazing. So let me tell you how amazing mine is. So 51 years ago, when I was born via C-section, the doctor came with the bulb syringe, and I looked at it because back then you had to reprocess it. It wasn't sterile in a package. And I inspected it right then for cleanliness. 51 years ago. No, I'm just kidding. I started as a surgical tech 31 years ago. 31 years ago as a surgical tech, traveling around the country. So yes, I am 51 years old. So traveling around the country as a surgical tech, and as a surgical tech traveler, you did whatever they told you to do, kind of like what sterile processing technicians are going through right now. And so I'm from Detroit, Michigan, but I traveled all the way out to San Francisco, California, back to Duke University Medical Center. So I've been all over the country. And as a part of my work, I would have to go to sterile processing to reprocess when cases weren't busy. So I dabbled in sterile processing for probably about 7-8 years until I landed here in Indianapolis, Indiana. Here in Indianapolis, I was still a traveler going to help sterile processing here in this city. Decide to stay here, make it my home. And one director just come to me and said, hey, we need your help. And like Biete, I am the fixer. And I don't mind. I don't mind helping. I don't mind going to any department to evaluate it, to say, hey, what can we do better and how can we do it better? Absolutely. And so here in Indianapolis, I wind up going to sterile processing to help them out. And I went down there and said, hey, what do you guys need? They like decontam help, right? And I got down there and stayed and never left. And I loved it. And so at the time, they were missing a manager. That manager is my good friend today. He walked out due to the frustration of not being respected, not understanding sterile processing and the processes. And so I wind up bridging the gap between the OR and sterile processing. That was 15 years ago. And so in the community where I work here in Indianapolis, I have just been sought after to go to one hospital after another, just helping to fix sterile processing departments. And some of them weren't even a part of the healthcare network that I belong to. So they would just say, hey, can you just come take a look? Please. Can you just come take a look and tell us what we need to do? And then I start writing about it. I start writing papers and articles, and those papers and articles led me to the local conference presentations. And then the big one was 2017 Nashville, Tennessee. That was ISHM's annual conference then in Nashville, Tennessee, 2017. And I did a presentation called Creating a Culture of Excellence. Oh. And I got off the stage that day and met Sharon Green Golden, who I'd never met before. She was ISHM former president. And she said, do you have a sponsor? And I was like, what is that? I didn't understand. She says, people are going to ask you to come and talk about sterile processing. So you might want to get ready. And I had a long conversation with her, and here I am now. So you guys are in really, really, really good company because the board of HSPA is amazing. And so I just finished my 2-year term as board of directors, and it's it's wonderful. So now my career has brought me all the way to this point, and I love communicating our profession. I love going to the C-suite to say, this is why we need this many technicians, because this is how many surgery cases we have. And if we don't get it, we're not going to function at this hospital.
There you go.
So, and then I like fixing. Yeah, so
Right.
there it is. I think I went 2 minutes. I'm sorry. But
Oh
you
no,
can't.
no, you can't. Right? I said it at the beginning. That's how you know you found your tribe.
Yeah.
So true, so true.
If we let them
Yeah.
all go, they can all talk about SPD for hours because
On and on and on.
on. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for sharing part of your background. Monique and Tammy, I'm going to drop you guys back down into the studio, and we're going to bring up Ken, who's also nominated for the board of directors, and hear a little bit about his background. And for the folks watching, for everybody that's up on the stage, I know Beati was nominated to a board of directors. Monique, what position were you nominated to this year?
So president-elect.
President-elect.
Oh my goodness.
All right. Okay, good luck. And then Brandon, what position were you nominated for?
It's the board of directors.
Board of directors.
Okay.
And lastly,
That's good.
Tamra.
Secretary Treasurer.
Secretary
Okay.
Treasurer. All right. So we will be right back with our president-elect nominee and our secretary treasurer nominee. And I'm going to bring up our last board of director nominee to the stage. All right. So why am I not getting video down up here? Ken, can you hear us? Oh, no, let me check on that. All right, I'm going to be right back with Ken. Okay, so while I have you guys up, both of you have been nominated to board of director positions. Would one of you feel comfortable telling us what is your understanding of that position? What functions would you be expected to carry out?
I'll go first.
Awesome.
I looking at it, we talk about promoting the mission and values of HSPA, which is standard, but I want people to understand that we are an integral part of surgical services, and we are not these stupid people downstairs. We're at the forefront of infection prevention, and we are an educated industry. I remember a few years ago, I had a conversation. I was in a meeting with someone at a facility, and they were sending out a communication, and they turned to me and said, well, will they be able to read this? Can they read? And that's really what they thought about the people in sterile processing. It was surprising. And this was at an organization where everybody was required to be certified. So these are all certified technicians. These are people who have to read IFUs. These are people who have to go in and look at biologicals and read results. These are people that you are trusting with your instruments that are being used in surgical procedures. And you're asking me, can they read? And I just really feel like that there is still a lot of promotion that needs to be done. That's what I want to do about our industry, about what we do, and about what we're capable of doing. Education has been very important to me. And I love the fact that now that HSPA, and I might refer to them as ISHM sometimes because it's still at the forefront of my mind, has really invested in providing so much education for our sterile processing technicians. I love the new website. I love the podcast. I love the webinars. But we also need to make sure that people are aware that those things are out there. The last facility I worked at, I had technicians who had been certified in the 80s, and they were not aware that all of this stuff was available to them.
Yes.
So that's something that we really need to make inroads to make sure that we really promote everything that we have available to the people that are in our organization. And that's something that I really want to do with the mission and the values of the president and president-elect, is really let people know that we are sterile processing, we are infection prevention, and we have a big voice to play in healthcare. And it takes a lot of knowledge to do what we do. And I want people, the sterile processing technicians, to also know that as well, that they have this big organization that supports them, that is willing to educate them way beyond just the technician test, that the education is something that is ongoing and is continuous, and that we can provide them with those tools of continuing education. So that's one of the things that I want to do in my role as a board of director.
Awesome. That's a lofty goal and an important one, and I think one that the entire industry shares. So, Beati,
Mhm.
I'm assuming that you feel the same, that because you talked about it a little bit, from going from cardiac nurse that you didn't know what SPD does to now being in this position where the main goal is to highlight the expertise, the science that takes place in behind these red lines in SPD for sure. Um, but I know you also spoke about the fact that you're originally from Germany, and so I wanted to know, what does it mean to you to represent where you're from, your background, all of your intersections as you work in this industry?
Okay, thank you. By the way, Brandon, I couldn't have put it any better with education. Education is absolutely essential for professional development. And if you look at the mission and vision of this organization, this is where we want to go. What does that mean? What does my background mean for this? Like my VP told me, as a German, you are process driven, and this is a genetic makeup, I think, that I have in me, and that's what I am very organized. I am when it comes down to anything that I do, it is a process, one step after the other, and I stick to that. And if it doesn't work, we have to modify it. And I'm very analytical, math driven. Data drives me. And what I have noticed in our organization is a lack of data to push for, let's say, more staff, more time, better machinery. And this is one of the things where I think my background, my German genetics, that math brain, that process oriented in me, that comes out, that's what attracted me to this profession. The other piece is my career in nursing. I have, over the almost 20 years of being a nurse here in America, I have always appreciated education, professional development. I've been in school more than I have not been in school since I've came to this country. So education is the cornerstone of professional development. So certification is an absolute must. I like to hear that there are some organizations out there that require certification to work in SPD, because this is actually one of the things that the nursing profession has probably mastered by now, and that came through the magnet program. If some of you work in some organizations that are magnet certified, you know what that means. One additional piece, though, my nursing career also taught me to collaborate with physicians. And I think that, and we call them our allied partners in the mission statement, but the physicians and our customers in the OR, partnering with them is very important. And over the last 3 to 4 years, I had to push myself into those positions in my organizations because SPD was not at the table when I got there. And I just asked that question, why not? So, and when there was meeting going on, I found out about it, I was there, invited or not. And I had a strong supporter in my COO in the organization at the time, and she called me a dog with a bone. And she basically told the rest of them, you might as well let her in because she's not going to quit. And she's not going
to try to
away.
lock that door, but
no.
She'll be kicking
And
it
that
down.
is right. And that is the next piece, then advocacy for the profession. That is really very important. And I think that's what I bring to the table. I'm a strong advocate for my folks, and I usually get what I want. Usually, not always, but I am able to compromise. But when it comes to the patient and my staff safety, I will not compromise at all. And I think that's where a role on the board of directors, where I can really help and contribute to the profession, to the organization, and hopefully to my own team, bring something home as well.
There you go. There you go. Something for
Good,
them
very good.
and for us, right? And I love that what you said about being a dog with a bone, because that level of tenacity is what somebody has to have in order to be able to work their full-time job, take on these additional positions. All of you have mentioned outside projects, whether you're public speaking to educate, Brandon running an entire entry-level program, and you guys are seeking to add more opportunities to advocate for this industry. So I think it really speaks to all of y'all's character. It's no surprise to me at this point that any of you were nominated. We're gonna
Kudos
take
to you guys.
yeah, right. Kudos,
Thank you.
kudos. We're gonna take a short commercial break, and then we will be bringing Monique and Tamara back up on stage with us.
Hey, welcome back.
Awesome. Thank you guys for hanging out in the studio with us. All right. So we're going to keep going, getting to know these guys, getting a deeper understanding of who they are, what their functions would be on the board, and why we should vote for them. But I want to remind everyone that voting for the HSPA board is open. You should have received an email if you're an issue member more than 30 days. You should have gotten an email, and that voting will remain open until April 6th. So you have time to watch this episode and the other two HSPA election forums before you cast your vote. All right.
Yep, definitely, guys. Make sure you cast your vote.
All right. So we got to hear a little bit about Brandon's background and why him and Beatrice feel like they would be good for these positions. And I want to hear the same from Monique and Tamara. What does it mean to you to be from where you're from? If you could let the folks know where you're from and what it means to you to represent all of your intersections as you work in this sterile processing field. So I'm going to start with you, Monique.
So I have a very unique upbringing. If you're talking about where you're from, as in your living, like where you're from, not your career, where you're from, like
Yes.
me being from Detroit, right?
From
Okay.
Detroit.
So let me tell you my unique background in a short period of time, if I can. I am from Detroit, Michigan, born and predominantly raised there. During a short stint of my life, from the time I was in first grade until fifth grade, my mom moved me to Fresno, California. Long family history story about that, but I moved to Fresno, California. And at that time, I was the only African-American child in my elementary school.
Yeah,
And I had one traumatic experience after another with fighting, with bullying, and it was horrible. I had Boy George pictures and Kiss pictures, posters on my wall in my bedroom. I was a big fan of Rod Stewart. And one day walking down the hallway at a mall, I started singing, "If you think I'm sexy and my mom jacked me up so bad.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
She was like, she said, "We are moving back to Detroit so you can have an identity, understanding of who you are as a young Black woman," right? And so when I got back to Detroit, and I'm getting to a point, when I got back to Detroit, we moved in with my grandmother in the heart of Detroit, right? In an area that we call the number streets, and where there's a penny candy store that's really in somebody's house that you walk down the street to. It's a very unique neighborhood. And here I am, a light complected, my hair was long at the time, and I am speaking like a proper Valley girl from California. and my own race of people. I went through another bullying session, chasing me home from work. You think you're white, right? And so as I began to grow and develop, I learned that I can connect with people on different levels, no matter where they are, no matter who they are. I have no problem talking to the toppest ranking person in my hospital. And I have no problem talking to the one who just graduated from high school and they're just getting an entry level job at the hospital to get to make a living. I say that to say that I have the kindest heart. I come from a very diverse background of people, family, interracial marriages. I just connect with everybody. I know how to listen. I know how to empathize. And I understand the importance of all of our work, not just within sterile processing, but everybody who comes in contact with the patients that we take care of. So because of my unique upbringing, I am fearless in all circles and circumstances. I'm very bold, but it started as a young child going through these situations and circumstances. And so now I am bringing that upbringing with me as an adult to say, hey, this is how we conduct business. This is how we do things. This is how we move forward. This is how we become professional sterile processing technicians. So that is what I'm bringing forward. That is what I'm bringing to the organization.
That's such
to
a
our
powerful
profession.
message. Powerful
Yeah.
message.
I love your background. And are you
Yeah.
singing currently?
It made me want to ask, because there is so much diversity on the panel. What kind of music do you guys listen to in your office?
Oh, everything. Oh, I don't listen to
Everything.
any music in my office.
You don't?
I need
listen
classical
to music
music to calm down.
There you go. You need classical to calm down.
Classical, and I play that for my animals at home,
Yes.
so they're calm while I'm at work, and it helps me focus. So,
What about you, Brandon? What do you play?
I listen to good gospel music. Yeah, I listen to some good gospel music on the way to work. But once I get to work, it's no music because I got a lot of energy. I'm the director over Indiana and Tennessee, and I got 6 departments on the campus that my office is at. And so when I leave work, I don't even listen to the radio because I need to decompress.
Decompress.
No radio, no music.
Yes.
Just I drive home in silence most of the time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you,
create that
Jesus.
space
I made
for
it through a day.
Okay. What about you, Brandon? What kind of music do you play in the office?
You know what? I don't really listen to music in the office. I think the car is really to pump me up because in addition to the program, I also visit different sites as well because, I have oversight over educational policies. So if we're going over competencies or just dealing with any general issue that comes up, I'm usually playing disco. I should have been born in the 70s. I got to get myself together. I got to put on some Donna Summer because I'm hot stuff when I'm walking up into a memory and it gets you motivated. It gets you, riled. Sometimes you have to walk in like a champion.
Yes.
And so that disco
Yes.
music gets me to where I need to be.
Sometimes you gotta walk in like a champion.
I like those selections. I love those selections.
Exactly.
So Tamara, how you doing? So what does it mean to you to be from where you're from, being in cell processing?
So it is so funny. While I don't have quite the awesome background that Monique has. She and I mirror each other in so many ways. Again, I grew up in a very small town in central Illinois. It's called Leroy. When I moved there, my mother I had 2 little brothers at the time, and my mother had just left my alcoholic stepfather, very abusive relationship. And we moved into this small farming community, right? Where everybody was married and everyone, in my opinion, in 6th grade, everybody had money, everybody had nice cars, everybody had nice clothes. And here I come from this divorced woman, which back then was not quite as accepted as it was today. So very poor, hand-me-down clothes or clothes that my great-grandmother had made for me, all of which never really made a difference before. In the school system I was before, I was like everyone else.
Right.
And then I moved to Leroy, and it was a completely different experience. I think, like Monique, I got beat up every day on the way home from school. 2 blocks from the elementary school. Like, how can you not make 2 blocks without something bad happening? But it made you learn how to handle caustic situations. So, you know, little did I know as a 6th grader that, you know, eventually I did get tired of the bullying and just turned around and jacked the girl in the nose, and that was the end of the school bully. But I mean, times are different now.
Right. It's a time and a place for everything.
And definitely in a surgical setting, when there's a surgeon being disrespectful, and back when I scrubbed, they could still throw things and call you names and you know, raise voices. I know that still happens today, but not near as much as it used to. You know, you had to learn how to navigate those difficult situations without getting angry and without firing back, and, you know, raise yourself above that and show them the professional that you are, and show them that you're better than they are. And that kind of behavior does not elicit a response from you. So again, just, you know, being raised by a single mother, you learn to respect everyone. I can remember, like I said, didn't have much money, so going to McDonald's was a huge treat. And I remember sitting in the car. Now I have 4 little brothers, and I remember sitting in the car and her giving us the speech. When we go in here, it's please and thank you.
Yes.
Don't want any antics. You know, my mom was great. You could act a fool if you were at home and no one was watching. She didn't care. But man, if you were out in public, you better walk that line. And I was poking my little brother, and he was poking me back, and she picked up that whole tray of Happy Meals and threw it in the trash.
Woo! Broke the kid's heart. Then she added the peer pressure in it, because the brothers is like, wait.
That's when you learn to follow processes. There's a in place.
She was acting up. What about my burger?
So,
you know,
that's amazing.
But I learned a lot from just that one experience, and I learned a lot from every surgeon I worked with. I learned the compassionate side of surgeons, and I learned how you could read a room, which benefits me greatly in sterile processing. I mean, let's face it, no one ever calls us to the OR to say, hey, Tammy, I just want to tell you and your team, you totally rocked it today. You did great. You guys are the best.
With surgeons and nursing in the OR, if you're listening, just throw it in there. Shock your SP department for one time.
I mean, I've had one surgeon come down and tell us what a great job we were doing, but that's because
we would probably think we're being punked, but I can just imagine, like, you open that OR door, they're like, yay! We're just going to tell you. You're like, where's the hole? Where's the hole?
Am I being fired right now?
Right.
So that's one of, I think, you know, just having that OR background. And I tell the story all the time. And I mean, looking back on it, it's hilarious, but it wasn't very funny at the time. We were setting up to do a pedicle screw fixation, and I was the scrub tech. And again, you know, I rotated back and forth between sterile processing and the OR. And I became complacent, right? I worked with the sterile processing group. I trusted them quite literally with my life. And I didn't check for an indicator before I put a wrapped NuVasive implant tray on my back table. And yes, so I breached the process, right? Me as a sterile processing or a surgical technologist blatantly broke process. And of course, guess what? No indicator in the tray. Patient asleep on the table. You know, here we go. So breakdown. And I said, and I'm angry, even though I'm in sterile processing, I'm angry. Somebody has just jeopardized our patient. I'm upset. And I said, I looked at the circulating nurse and I said, save that wrapper. When this case is over, I'm going to go down and talk to that technologist in sterile processing personally, because this is completely unacceptable. This is why we have double checks in place. I want to know what happened. And I'm going to cry talking about it because I was so humiliated. And she looked at me and she said, save yourself a trip. It was you.
It was you.
It was you.
It was me. It was me.
Yes.
Come on.
Yes. So not only did I put my patient at risk by breaking process and not checking for that indicator, I didn't have my tray double checked because I didn't need that. I didn't need it,
yes.
right?
Didn't need
I'm
it.
that good.
I know this tray.
double
I don't need that count sheet.
You talk about humbling.
Yeah.
So that's what
Yeah.
I feel like I can bring to the board is just the passion from both sides and raising awareness and figuring out how we collaborate with the operating room. Because let's face it, there's not a lot of institutions where we have that awesome collaboration. I've worked in a couple of them.
Yeah.
And I've been in places where they're really trying hard, but it still sometimes feels like us versus them.
Yes.
And when the OR,
So
something's happening in the OR and they don't understand what's in SPD, they're the ones that work with those physicians every day. The vendors are in them with, they don't ever see us. So who is always going to take the rap if we don't put ourselves out there? If we're not in the rooms in the morning rounding, hey, you good today? You good? We do all right by you? You know, that's up to us to raise awareness to our industry. And to me, that's the most important thing a board member can do, no matter what capacity you're in.
It's powerful
So
stuff.
true.
Out there with your notebooks.
That's
because
awesome.
They are dropping gems. I mean, from the beginning of this episode and Brandon talking about predictive meetings, you know, getting together and searching and looking at your schedule ahead of time so you can have the aha moment that, wow, we're trying to do 5 totals back to back, but we only have 3 setups. How is this going to work? Right. And it's not so much a situation of we cannot do this, but how can we get this done? And that's what I'm seeing across the board for everybody on the stage right now is you guys approach a problem and the first thing you say is, okay, let me sit here and tinker with this and figure out what can I do? Because this can be done.
That brings up a great point, that huddle, that predictive huddle that Brandon was talking about. You know, our other forgotten partners, we all talk about perioperative services and act like we're a big family, but, you know, SPD, scheduling. How often does anybody really involve scheduling? Like, does anybody have, you know, we have Epic.
Yeah.
Does anybody's schedulers, what do they do with the conflict alert, right? They just turn it off.
Right? Do they even know that they have conflict alerts?
Right.
They don't.
Nobody wants that thing beeping at them all day.
Nobody wants you to really put in there that we only have 2 C arms.
And with the huddle, they rarely scheduling. So, you know, Brandon can look at the team and go, hey, you're right. We've got 5 totals. We've got 3 trays. I don't really know how we're going to pull this off. Wouldn't it be great if we had scheduling sitting there going, hey, we can move Dr. John to 2:30 from 7:30. That gives you plenty of time to put things over.
Yes.
And I haven't seen that since, which is so weird. That's so weird. I have not seen that since.
We had it at Advocate, but I have not seen it since either. Not in that capacity.
I've only been in, especially compared to some of the heavy hitters on the stage right now. I've only been in the field for 14 years in one facility. I had a director that actually pulled together materials, SPD, the schedulers, and we all went through the schedule together. And we did that not only for the next day, but 4 days out. So you can actually get ahead of stuff, you know, rather than me standing there and screaming in the morning that my rep didn't know about my case. Well, I've called him now 2 days ago and I texted him 1 day ago and now he's here. Right. So us being able to put those pieces into place ahead of time could really save us all a lot of trouble.
Yes.
And
the huddle shouldn't just be blowing through the schedule saying we've got 47 totals, we've got 12 this. It should be predictive, like Brandon said.
I'm loving this, and we're definitely going to have to get you guys back to talk more about this topic. Oh my goodness.
This is another podcast.
Guys, I love your backgrounds. Very interesting, different aspects of your backgrounds, how you learn how to be professional, you know, growing up, not knowing that would take you where you are right now. So I'm going to move on to another question with Beate.
Yes. Harry Miller in the crowd.
I'm here.
What is the proper pronunciation? So her first name is Beate. But Beate, could you tell us how we properly pronounce your name?
Beate. Greater.
Greater.
I thought I said that right.
Thank you. You did.
Yeah, you did.
Straight from the horse's mouth.
Beate.
I have a guest. All
Oh,
right.
hello.
All right. Thanks.
So,
Dee.
guys, I definitely want you guys to promote yourselves and give the best opportunity so that you get the most votes that you could win the election process. And I could see you guys at Isham or HSPA and shake your hands and congratulate you guys. So I wish everybody could win, but I don't think
Right.
that's the case, right? I
Can we
wish
just
they
put
would
you
just
all on the
right,
board?
just put everybody on the board, please. So, guys, Beati, how have you supported the SP industry? And I really want you to sell yourself. Make sure you get as many votes as you can. So
All
you
right.
have you have a couple.
I have a
Let's go.
minute.
No,
Okay,
no,
thank you.
let's go as long as you can.
I'm done with this.
No, like I mentioned earlier, I am relatively new to this profession.
You see
So
this right
the
here?
first 2 years
See
was
this
really
45?
very
And
limited
that's the 60.
um,
I'll be done.
because I had to learn and I had to get certified and really figure out what I'm doing.
See when it's coming.
A couple of things that I was able to pull off in a relatively short period of time is really, like I said earlier, build strong relationships with our partners. And you're absolutely right. It is not just the peri-operative services. It is the schedulers. It's materials management. Is supply distribution. And I think what really helped was the last 2 years. I'm very happy to report SPD as the COVID pandemic hit our hospital, like everybody else got hit with it. Our surgery schedule was very limited. And at that time, I was probably the only department in the hospital that was fully staffed. And now surgery is slowing down. We didn't have to work. What do you do with all your folks? As a nurse, I had the connections house-wide in the hospital. I had people help in phlebotomy. I had people distributed in supply distribution. I send them out to the nursing units. And nurses, as you know, they were just at the bedside. They were desperate. There was just patients coming and coming. Everybody was overworked. And just having a few people there that say, hey, I want some hours. What can I do to help you? Established a relationship throughout the organization that we've never had before. SPD technicians were out there working on the nursing units. And I said, remember, you are representing us. Teach them what we do when you come back to the basement. And so I was very happy to report to my VP is like, no, my folks are getting their hours. And what are they doing? They're helping other units. So that was really one of those things that I was able to distribute my staff out there and make them seen and known. And so I started getting applications to my positions from in-house staff that said, whoa, what is this? And what are you doing down there? This is interesting. So really building those strong relationships is probably one of the things that I was able to do rather quickly through my career in nursing in this organization. And I'm hoping that I can bring to the table. How I did that in my clinical background really helping me to build those relationships. The other thing that we did was develop a very strong orientation plan. There was no orientation when I got there. People got the job, they got oriented. Here's your locker, here's the bathroom, go out there and learn. We have now developed a 3-month orientation program that is solid and has a lot of support from the vendors and other areas. I developed a certification program. I reimbursed for certification. I developed a career ladder within 2 years, very similar to the career ladders that we had in nursing. So I basically copied and pasted a lot of that, what was applicable. And now we have a very strong career ladder from Tech 1 to Tech 2 to Tech 3 to assistant manager, director, a clear career path for our folks that want to come in and make this their calling. The other thing was, and I'm probably going to be most proud of this, when I retire, this is probably the thing that I'm going to really mention to my grandchildren is I immediately figured out people is going to be the biggest issue over the next few years. It was in nursing. We had to think outside the box, and it's no different in any healthcare industry right now, and especially SPD. You guys talked about it when we first started. Getting people in the department is like you guys called it the hamster wheel. I'm in the same situation. So what I did is I reached out through our HR and education department, and I said, what can we do to fix that problem in the future? And I'm happy to say we are creating, in collaboration with our community college and a brand new SPD program, the first one here in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. And we started the program. We now have a lead there. She's working on the curriculum. And we were supposed to enroll January, February timeframe. COVID again put a damper in that. But we do have our first enrollment starting in August. It's a solid 6-month program. I'm also happy to report that our organization will be the primary clinical site. So those folks, and what I see with a lot of SPD programs, you can go through the theory, but the people going through the program struggle finding clinical sites. This program is solid, 8 weeks theory and then 8 weeks clinical. And when you come out, you have enough hours to sit for the CRCST. And that is starting in August with first enrollment. So that is what I did for our little local community. And I'm hoping through my membership on the board, we can copy some of those techniques and those activities that I did and was successful with on a very small scale. And let's see how we can spread that all over the country so people take these ideas, move forward, and start working with your partners and build those collaborations with the local community, HR, perioperative services. Let's figure out how we can get and keep people in the organization. One final thing, you guys talked about money, and you're losing people for travelers. I lost myself 2 very recently. They tripled their salary going traveling. I don't blame them. But I am happy to report in the last 4 years, my technicians got 3 across the board raises, adjustments to their salaries based on just in general, just on doing some assessments in the community. Where are we going to get our people from if we don't pay them enough? And I'm not done yet. So 3 is just the start. So I am not giving up. Again, I'm a dog with a bone. I will continue to advocate for the technicians, and hopefully in the future, we will actually pay them for what they're worth, because that is probably one of the biggest problems we run into right now.
Preaching now, you preaching now.
I'm preaching. I didn't
One day.
Sorry about that.
Well, no, one day we will pay them what they are worth. And it's gonna be because of folks out in front, like you all here. So thank you. You covered so many things. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna move right around that circle, coming back up to the top to Tamara. Why should they vote for you?
Why should they vote for me? That's a great question. So just my absolute, I feel I could stand alone on just my absolute love and passion for sterile processing. That in itself is reason enough to vote for me. I think we have a couple of people in the audience that I've worked with in the past, and they know sterile processing is truly my life. I've never looked at sterile processing as a job, nor have I allowed anyone in sterile processing around me to think of it as a job. I think that we have to all love our careers, and we have to think of it as a profession. We will not be treated as professionals until we start treating ourselves as professionals. And that's what I want to do for all of the team members and everybody in sterile processing out there, is build you up and make you feel like the professional that you are, make you realize how important you are to that journey to zero harm. We don't get recognized, and that's because we allow ourselves to stay in the background, and we allow ourselves to stay silent until we have to defend ourselves. And that has to change. We have to allow ourselves to celebrate all the great things we do every single day that don't get recognized. one of the greatest joys I've had in my life, which I was so nervous doing. I spoke at HSPA. That won't be the last time I do that. Twice now. And just feeling that connection to the audience, because let's face it, you know, before these podcasts, we all felt like we were alone out there in sterile processing. We were on this little island. We had no one we could talk to about our struggles. And then you get to go to your first conference and you realize, oh my gosh, you're not alone. And that's what I want to do on the board, is make everyone realize you are not alone. I am there for you day or night, 24/7. If you're on call on Christmas and your manager and your director won't answer the phone, by golly, give me a call. I will do what I can to help you. I mean, this is truly my love, and building people that are new to the sterile processing profession is even my greater love. That is every day when I wake up and, you know, somebody says, what do you do for a living? And they're like this 19-year-old person like I was when I got into the medical profession, and I tell them and they're like, well, that sounds interesting. Would you hire me? And I'm like, are you going to show up for work? You know, first thing, how's your attendance?
Right.
And you build them up. And now one of those people is a manager in sterile processing, you know, somebody that had no idea what it was. And now they're
Don't do that.
a great leader in our industry. So that's what I feel like I bring to the board, and that I can bring to all of you if you'll vote for me. And even if you don't want to vote for me, just please go vote. Your vote is so important.
Yes.
Go vote.
Go vote.
Because as you can clearly see, vote or no vote, they do this.
Definitely.
Yes.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, they love SPD.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay,
We're going
Monique.
to next. Monique.
President-elect.
Yes, I'm gonna make this.
And there's
Thank
only
you
two
so much.
in
I'm gonna
your
make-
category, right?
Yeah,
And we had Anthony
I know
on,
it.
right, the head-to-head battle here for the top seat. Why should we vote for you, Monique?
So let me tell you, Anthony ran last year. I voted for him. We both served on the board, and he's an awesome leader. This is a win-win situation, no matter whether I win or Anthony wins. He is great. I'm also great. If you vote for me, I'm bringing my passion. I'm bringing my intellect. I'm bringing my natural gifts, and I have a master's degree in organizational leadership. So all of this goodness that I possess will drive our organization towards professional recognition and awareness of sterile processing. What do we do? Who are we? And how do we motivate those other communities that are without the knowledge of HSPA, right? We need to get more members and get more recognition at the C-suite. So I'm ready for that battle. I was a part of the board of directors this last 2 terms that changed our name from ISHM to Healthcare Sterile Processing Association. And let me tell you, Anthony will tell you first and foremost, I was the dog with the bone at those tables and discussions because we need to be recognized as professionals, and it's not easy. And how do we send the message? How do we become professionals and firm and kind at the same time? And this is the passion that I'm bringing, not just my much speaking, but I have a degree to back it up, and I have some natural skills and talents that will also put us forward on the map with the department in the hospital that needs more attention, more recognition, and just a thank you every once in a while for showing up today. That's it.
Thank you for that.
Win-win.
Excellent.
Yes.
Thank
It's
you.
a
Thank you.
win-win.
Thank you. Win-win. You
Win-win.
gotta vote. You gotta vote.
You have to
You gotta
vote.
Yes.
But it is win-win. The nominees are phenomenal this year. So we have spent an hour together getting to know some of the 2022 HSPA board member nominees. And we have people representing Secretary Treasurer here, nominees for director, as well as nominees for president-elect. Voting will be open until April 6th. So please make sure that you take the time to cast your vote and make sure that your voice is heard. And as we get ready to wrap up, and I know you guys touched on a little bit, but because you guys come from such dynamic backgrounds and have clearly had such dynamic leaders be a part of your growth, We even talked about people like Miss Sharon Green Gold in here tonight. Can you tell us about a hero of yours?
Oh, don't
And
forget Brandon.
don't forget Brandon. What did I forget?
Brandon.
Brandon.
Oh, sorry.
Why should somebody vote for Brandon?
Oh, why should somebody vote
I'm
for
sorry.
me?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm like, what did I forget? Help me. All right. So before we get to the hero question, Brandon, yes, I about stole your thunder.
Did you
Why
let me?
should they vote for you?
Well, first of all, it's just an honor to be nominated. You know, working in states outside of my home state of Maryland has really given me an invaluable perspective on the day-to-day challenges that our profession faces. And now working at a large healthcare system, I understand the huge challenges that we're going to have to address in the next few years. And whether it's staffing, whether it's education training, whether it's certification or the ability to understand our changing healthcare model, you know, these things might not be universal, but they do have a huge impact on our profession. And I want to help us overcome those things in the future. You know, when I look back at my career, and I've had ups and downs or, you know, situations where I just didn't know what I was going to do or what I wanted to do. But there's always been a perseverance, whether in my personal or professional life. You know, I face situations that require a high level of focus, hard work, and maturity to see them through. And these experiences are the things that led me to sterile processing in the first place. And, you know, a significant amount of my exposure to healthcare came from Mercy Medical Center, which is a 5-star a hospital in Maryland, and also from Penn State Health in Pennsylvania. And working at those well-respected organizations, it was challenging. It was tough. You know, a lot of those departments were broken when I went into them. But, you know, they taught me how to improve coordination, how to standardize best practices, and also share resources and really develop your staff. And I believe those experiences and challenges have really set me up for my next step, which is hopefully the board of directors. But, you know, whether you vote for me or not, like everybody else that says, just go out and vote. That's the most important thing. I am just honored to be in such esteemed company. And it's been a great evening. And hopefully I will see you guys again if I do make it to the conference. But vote, 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 vote.
Yes.
sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes. And Beati, Monique, and Tamara will be at the HSPA conference. Of course, the process will be on site as well. Y'all send good mojo to Brandon so that he can make it and you guys can see him there. Right? We want to meet as many of our internet cousins this year as we can.
Definitely. Definitely.
Awesome. Okay, so before I tried to steal Brandon's thunder, I was asking about your heroes, the people that helped shape who you guys are on a personal level. So if you could tell us who's been a hero for you. And I'm gonna start with you, Brandon. Who's been a
Okay.
hero for you?
I'll incorporate two people into this. My grandmother, who basically, you know, she helped raise me. My father was in a car accident when I was about 4 years old. So my paternal grandmother really stepped in and helped my mother raise me. And she's the person that really taught me that no matter what job you're doing, no matter how much you get paid, you go out there and do a good job no matter what. And so, you know, I've had experiences where, you know, maybe I didn't want to be there, or maybe I wasn't feeling my best, but I never let it affect my work. And so I have she have to give a huge shout out to her, but also Dr. Kevin Bush, who is my director here. He is the one that really helped ground me in a health career. You know, I didn't know which way to turn. I was in school for maybe a degree in business marketing, and I didn't feel like it was going to lead anywhere. And he sat down and talked to me and said, well, what do you really want to do? What do you have a passion for? And I told him about my life and things I had encountered along the way with my grandmother and her health. And he really said to me, why don't you go towards a health career? And, you know, he picked out the school that I went to because, you know, I like to go to school online. I don't always like people standing in front of me teaching. I am a rowdy student. Sometimes I just want to get on with the work. But he picked out the school. He suggested the program. And he even gave me his book, his Isham book. to study for my certification. And
Very
so
nice.
he has had a lot of he's helped me a lot, and he's been a huge mentor to me and continues to be so. And whenever I feel like I am making the wrong step, I still look to him, and he's always been there to answer a call. So I always have to mention him when I speak about my career and my professional life.
That's excellent. So we'll move on to Beate.
Thank you. I think I have to say, when I came over here from Germany, went back to nursing school, and really got my first job as a cardiac nurse, and then came to this organization where I am right now. I started working on my career, and I said, well, I'm not going to always be a bedside nurse. I like administration. This is where I want to be. And I started moving up the career ladder in nursing, and had the opportunity to participate in the Performance Improvement and Patient Safety Council. And the director at that time, she was the director over our emergency department. Her name is Kathleen Beeson. She embraced me and my energy. I had all this energy I didn't know what to do with. And that's really great for performance improvement and patient safety. You need a lot of energy to really stand up for your patients. And she took me under her wing somewhat. I was a member of the council. I became co-chair of the council, ended up leading the council, and was able to go under her guidance to a number of magnet conferences. I was a member of that council and actually led that council during a time when we first got magnet certified. I learned so much from her. She went on and became a VP and our COO, and just recently sort of retired. And it was just always, she was always my mentor. She was always right behind me. Twice a year, she asked me to her office, no matter in what position she was. She said, let's just chat. How are you doing? Where are you going? What are you doing? What's driving you? What's frustrating you? And having somebody like that in the organization that really supports you and puts you in these places where you need to be without you even knowing, it's just amazing. So she's been my role model, and she's been my hero. And unfortunately, she just retired, but good for her. And so she was also one of the people that stepped right up when I needed a letter of recommendation for this nomination. She stepped right up and she wrote it for me. It didn't take about a day to just put that in writing, and it took time out of her busy day to give me that support. So she's my role model. She's my hero. And I would love to be like her, in a role like her, but she never forgot about two groups of people, the patients and her team.
There you go.
And those are the two things that she always put in the middle. And she was a lifetime learner, which I adopted from her. So she's my hero. And I'm still in contact with her every now and then. We text each other. So I think she's gonna continue to be my hero and my contact through this journey. And I'm looking
you
forward
guys
to
are such heroes for so many, and I think it's important and impactful, and we want to make sure people understand that even the people that we look up to have someone that they look up to, right? Greatness is not born in a vacuum. And I love that that you shared that she had two focus. One was her patients and one was her team. Because you guys have shown eloquently that we're only as good as the folks that are on that front line, which means that we have to resource them. We have to educate them. We have to pay them. We have to support them so that they stay there with us and they hold that line. All right. So who haven't I heard from? Tamara?
Yes.
Who's a hero? Who's a hero for you?
Please don't make me follow Monique again. Okay, thank you. Oh, so I have two heroes as well. I'll touch on the first one very briefly, even though she probably personally is my biggest hero, my mother, the reason I am who I am today. she told me, you know, of course, at the ripe age of 18, I knew everything there was to know about life and what was going to happen to me throughout it. And I was far too smart to go to college and get an education, which broke her heart because, you know, at that time, I could have went, you know, we had a lot of state funding available to us. So anyway, fast forward, I mean, it took me 22 years to get my bachelor's degree. And I, you know, multiple times wanted to quit while I was working as a surge tech. And I remember one of the things my mother always said was never have any regrets. There are no mistakes in life unless you learn, unless you don't learn from them. So live life with no regrets. And so I finally asked her one day, I said, Mom, come on, everybody has a regret. And she said, you're correct. I have one. I never finished my bachelor's degree. So it took me 22. Yes. I mean, every time I wanted to quit, I saw the tears building behind the strongest woman I knew. That was her only life regret. And I could not fail her. So when I finished my bachelor's after, again, 22 years, I was on the 22-year program.
Right. And I think that's so important for people to see that there's no straight path to success.
There isn't. And I mean, I changed. I went from wanting to be an attorney to wanting to be an FBI agent. I mean, I ran the gamut. And then when I graduated, you know, she was so proud and she looked at me and she said, you know, you can't stop, right? Wait, what? 20, I'm done. And so, but I didn't. She was right. I wanted to make her proud. So I went and got my MBA. So I just finished that 2.5 years ago. So at the ripe age of 49. So here we are.
Yeah.
But my second hero is Dr. Ann Stroink. She was one of the first female neurosurgical residents at the Mayo Clinic. I was selling shoes at Walmart at the age of 19. Yes. Tammy, to the shoe department, please. Yes. I'm still here at my And one of my coworkers was Dr. Stroink's office manager. And she said, I'm moving to Florida. I think you should apply for my job. I'm 19. I didn't even know what spondylolisthesis was, let alone write it down in a chart somewhere. At any rate, so I got the job. I don't know how I got the job. And I'd been working there about 2.5 years when Dr. Stroink came in and slapped a Parkland College catalog in front of me and said, how do you feel about being a surgical technologist? I said, not really interested, really like my job. She said, how do you feel about keeping your job? I said, ooh, I feel very positive. I want to keep my job. She said, then you're going to be a surgical technologist. Not that there's anything wrong with being an office manager, if that's your passion, but she just saw more in me than being her office manager. She wanted to watch me grow. And she's been to virtually or in person. She's been to every graduation that I had. She came to surgical technology graduation. And after working for her for like 1.5 years, she finally looked at me and said, you know, your mother and I graduated high school together, right? My mother never told me that. And she never told me that because they didn't want me to think I was getting preferential treatment. They wanted me to know I was doing this on my own. So those are the two strong, amazing women that I've had in my life. And I couldn't have done it without them.
Awesome.
Awesome. Okay, Monique, here we go.
Yes. Yeah, you know what, Tammy and I have such similar backgrounds. We must talk more later. I have one amazing superhero in my life who has motivated me from the time she gave birth to me, and that was my mom. So my mom passed away a couple years ago. Second to my mom is my entire family. So after moving from Fresno, California back to Detroit, my mom knew exactly what she was doing. My mother had me when she was young. She was 16 years old when she had me. She comes from a very large family. She went to Fresno, California because my grandmother is an orphan and they thought they found her mother, which would have been my mom's grandma. And that wasn't the case, but we wind up staying in California for 5 years. When my mother realized that I might be having an identity crisis at 9 years old, almost 10, she said, we're moving you back to Detroit. And it was in that moment, in those years, that I began growing up in a village. Okay. And so my mother had 5 siblings. My grandmother had 6 kids. And my mom got married. I had a dad and a stepdad. Okay. And 2 very strong grandmothers, my father's mother and my mother's mother. So I was truly raised in a village. If I wanted to leave out the house and I had on lip gloss that was too popping or a skirt that was too short, it was not going to happen. If you wanted to take me out on a date, you better not blow that horn. You better come knock on the door. So if I got bad grades, everybody in the family knew about it. I was in speech competitions in high school, and they stood me in the kitchen in front of the stove and listened to my speeches and critiqued me and sent me on my way. So I did very well growing up because I truly had a village of people. I couldn't get away with anything. And it wasn't just me. I have a boatload of cousins, and we all got treated the same way. So it was a beautiful upbringing. You know, it was a beautiful upbringing, and we were not wealthy by no stretch of the means, right? We poor little Black kids in the middle of Detroit, one aunt and uncle who did very well, and that was my summer camp. We went to their house in the summer. My uncle worked for Ford, and that was a huge deal, you know, and my aunt didn't have to work. So that was summer camp for us, but I had a true village upbringing. My father's side of the family, all biracial. So I have a heritage to Jefferson Davis. I don't necessarily think that's a good thing, but I have a very eclectic group of family members that are very diverse. And I just was raised brilliantly, but my mom, she is the pillar of strength. So I am very, very, very grateful for my upbringing. So there you go. Those are my heroes, my family and my mom.
Oh, guys, thank you so much for sharing with us. And I have just one thing. So, guys, check out our YouTube channel. Hit that like and subscribe button, and also hit that notification bell. Use your pinky finger, the top right, and you will be notified every time we have new content or great shows like this coming on.
Yes.
So, guys, we'll segue into a little commercial, and we'll be right back. So guys, check out our Etsy store. You'll get some good apparel like this. Get your nice little hoodie. So support the show. Thank you guys so much for coming on. We really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your evenings. You know your time is valuable. You guys have a lot on your plates, and we really appreciate it. We really recognize that. We hope there's a good turnout for the HSPA voting for the new board members. So thank you guys so much. Alessandra, are you going to say your last parting words?
Yes. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us tonight. If you didn't get an opportunity to see the other 2 nights of HSPA candidates, head over to our YouTube page. You'll find them there. And I just want to say good luck to all of you. I agree with Monique. This is win-win no matter who you vote for. So vote for who you feel, represents what your mission and vision of HSPA is. But know that regardless, these guys are going to be doing the work to advance our industry no matter what. So thank you guys for your service.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Tamara, Brandon,
Thank
Beatty,
you.
Monique. Appreciate you guys coming, and we'll see you guys. Oh, if you don't come to Texas, we'll still see you. We'll still see you. And we'll have
Somewhere.
Every Wednesday.
See you in Texas.
every Wednesday.
We'll
All
come
right,
to
guys.
Georgia.
There you go.
Peace.
Peace.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.